Dariana came up to me, we're upstairs, we're like editing stuff, and she's like, I sprained my ankle, was it over the weekend? Last week, so she wants me to tape it, so I thought you guys might want to see sort of like the decision process and how I go through figuring out what I'm going to tape, why I'm going to tape, and that kind of thing. You can see some bruising, ecchymosis is down here, and some of that bruising has landed down into the toe, and she's got some bruising on the lateral side too. The mechanism was an inversion sprain. She had kind of like a scuff on the side of your shoe, right? So the whole ankle went this way. But I just want to make sure that we don't have any high ankle component. So to do that, I'm just going to do a squeeze test on her and just squeeze the tib and fib together. And we can do an external rotation test in standing because she does have a little bit of pain up in here too, which is also kind of common with an inversion ankle sprain. She's got some exquisite tenderness right about there. And she's got a little pain with inversion. Just tell me when, right there. So you can see like what I'm checking for is like what's the irritability, what's the tolerance to inversion. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to taper, and I have to figure out whether I want to taper in complete neutral or I want to let her have a little bit of motion and just kind of block her from going too far. Just create like a safety net so she doesn't roll it again. So I got three options as far as tape is concerned. So one, we have sort of cover roll. Cover roll is actually a rigid tape. So I can actually use just cover roll over here, and that would actually do quite a bit of good in blocking some inversion of the ankle. It doesn't stretch at all though. So it doesn't actually act to provide any soft tissue or muscular support. It only just stops the ankle when it gets to a certain point. Strap taping or leucotaping is going to do exactly the same thing. Basically, at some point in time, it'll just block the ankle from going. And oftentimes, you'll see people using these two together, right? You put this over the skin, and then you put this on top of this. And this on the skin is a little bit annoying sometimes just because the glue is so sticky. And this is dynamic tape. Dynamic tape is somewhat elastic. So dynamic tape essentially has got some stretch to it. It's not as much stretch as K-tape, but it definitely is flexible. It's somewhere between K-tape and leukotape. And then my last option here, K-tape, this is Kinesiotex Gold, which is going to be the most flexible of all the options. I'm not going to use this, and the reason is this is a tissue integrity problem, and I actually need to get something on there that's got some sort of integrity to it, some sort of stiffness to it, because I actually, more importantly than anything else, want to block her ankle from re-spraining. So I'm actually going to use the cover roll to provide her with some protection, with the dynamic tape on top of that to provide her with some feedback and that sort of like sensation of pulling up here to hopefully activate her peroneals. What I want to do is get the foot first into a somewhat neutral position. So can you dorsiflex up just a little bit to whatever you can? Good. All right, see if you can keep the knee straight and hold the foot there. And then rotate your whole leg in like this. And notice I have her rotate her legs. So I want those toes pointing up. It makes my job a lot easier. And I have the table raised all the way up as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to measure from where I want to anchor. This is as high as I can get the pants on her anyway. So that's as high as I'm going to put my anchor. I'm going to bring it underneath and then about 2 or 3 inches up the other side. You take the cover roll and you're going to flip it backwards like this and hold it in one hand. And then take your scissors, and then if you use the scissors, and if you try to cut in the middle of the scissors, oftentimes the glue from the tape gets stuck. You got to stick the scissors all the way in and cut right at the base of the scissors. So now that I have that cut, if I put this tape, if I put it anterior to the joint line over here, then when she goes into, by joint line I mean the ankle mortise, right? So if I put this anterior to lateral malleolus, when she points her foot down, it'll go on tension. The tape will go on tension. When she pulls her foot up, the tape will go on slack. If I tape behind the lateral malleolus, when she points her foot or goes into plantar flexion, the tape will go on slack. When she goes into dorsiflexion, the tape will go on tension. And if I put the tape right over the lateral malleolus, there'll be equal amounts of tension when the foot's in dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. So I can bias the amount of stability I have when the ankle's in plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. Now, where do we sprain the ankle? Typically in plantar flexion, because the ankle mortise is in the more open pack position when you're in plantar flexion. But for her, I'm actually going to do both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the tape up here, and I'm going to angle it down. There's a couple of ways to do this. One is just to peel all the backing off all at once. The problem with cover roll is when you peel all the backing off all at once, the tape wants to just roll up into a ball and get stuck to itself. So it's a little bit easier if you just take the ends off like this and then approximate where you want that to go. We'll say right about there. and then get that end stuck down, and then you just peel as you go. And I'm going to take this right over the lateral malleolus so that I'm going to get equal amounts of tension in dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. And I want her also in a bit of eversion. Yep. So that as I wrap this thing underneath, it puts a little bit of some passive tension into the tape. And if I get some passive tension into the tape, then what's going to happen is as she tries to invert, that's when my tape is going to catch and stop that motion from happening. So I'm going to wrap this nice and taut to the other side and lay it down over here. And then I'm going to test to make sure I got the right amount of tension. So go ahead and relax. As I go this way, you can see that tape starting to go on tension. And you notice in dorsiflexion, the back of the tape goes on tension. Plantar flexion, the front of the tape goes on tension. Now I think what I'm going to actually do, since this is just really tender for her, I'm going to put a little piece of strap tape, which is the Leuco tape, aka strap tape. And I'm going to get this piece right across the ankle, but I'm not going to put it the full length of the tape. So to cut this, it's very, very difficult to rip. Athletic tape is really easy to rip. Leuco tape is nearly impossible. You put the end of the tape, and I just like to tape it onto the table, and then cut it down here. Makes it so much easier. Take that off. Okay, see if you can dorsiflex again, D. Good. And I'm going to just get that right over here. So that's not too big, but now watch. I can take this dynamic tape, which is this pulley stuff, and I'm going to help her out with a little muscular support. So I'm going to do 2 strips of dynamic. This tape does better when it sticks to skin. So I'm going to get 2 strips. Now, I don't round corners on any of my taping. I find that to be a pain in the ass. I just cut the edges. So I just cut the edges of the tape, just like that. I don't bother with the rounding. I think it takes so much time. And I'm just terrible at arts and crafts, so this works just fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this guy to try to get some muscular support. I'm going to start anterior to the tape here. I'm going to try to wrap it around, and I probably end up finishing posterior. Now, unlike the coverall, this tape you don't peel from the edges, you break it in the middle. I'm going to break the tape. I'm going to pull off the anchor piece. Then we're going to come here. I want to make sure I get this nice and wrapped onto the foot. Now, this is very flexible tape, so no matter what I think I have, I'm always going to end up further downstream than I think I am because of how flexible this tape is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this quite a bit of pull. And what that's going to feel like to her is like there's somebody holding her ankle in the corrected position when she gets up. Okay. So we've got that to the other side here. When I get to my end point here, I'm just going to let that tension go. Just like that. I don't want any tension on the actual anchors. That will cause the tape not to want to stick at all. Okay, can you turn your whole leg over to your left? You can turn your body just a little bit as well. That's good. The reason I had her do that is I want to anchor this one just behind the rest of what I got going on here. Okay, get a nice good, at least a 2-inch anchor there. Good amount of tension on the tape. Evert just a little bit. There we go. All right, so if we did this right, this is all going to feel really good when she gets back up. And I'm going to finish this one posterior. Good, you don't have to move. So then you got to warm the tape up. So basically just rub along the length of the tape. And what that does is it warms the glue up. After you put tape on, the next thing you want to do is you want to have your patient stand up on the tape. What will typically happen is the moment they start loading the tape, it may start to pop off. So you got to let them load the tape a little bit, let them walk a little bit. And you want to sort of see, so just march in place since we don't have any room right now to walk. First of all, how does it feel? Great. Okay, she said it feels great, which is good. And I want to check the tape after she loads it to make sure that no part of the tape is peeling off. Because what will happen sometimes is you get everything beautiful on the table. The moment they stand up, the tension on the tape starts to pull it off. But everything is actually sticking really nicely. Now, if I wanted this tape to last longer, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the coverall and I'm going to tape around the ankle like this, right where my tape is. I don't want to go all the way around the ankle because I'm going to create a tourniquet, but I'm going to come about 3/4 around the ankle, right at the top of the tape line. And what that's going to do is it's going to essentially make sure that the tape has no way of falling off because the edges will not unravel. So I'm going to, again, start at my ends because this is coverall, not elastic tape. This is a form of strap tape, and it's very breathable. So patients will always say, can I shower with this? And the answer is yes. If you get the tape job right, the tape is going to last for about 3 to 5 days, and they can shower with it, which is nice. All I'm trying to do is just catch the top edge of all of my little tapes here. There we go. Now that top one is not supportive. It's really just going to hold that tape on, so that tape does not move. So that should last you about 3 to 5 days. I don't have any courses on taping yet, but if that's something that you guys want to see, if you want a whole course on how to do all different forms of taping, let me know in the comments below. Again, you can still shoot me questions. I'll be sure to get back to you. If there's anything specific that you guys want to see, also let me know. And we'll see you guys next time. Cool. Thank you.